Loudspeaker Studios.
Good morning, Tromaville, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Talkin' Troma. I'm your host, Zach Bynes. Now, throughout history, we've seen some truly iconic team-ups. Peanut Butter and Jelly, Ren and Stimpy, Batman and Robin. But one partnership you might not immediately think of, yet one that's just as important, is the bond between Troma and comic books. Troma co-founder and Toxie cinematic dad Lloyd Kaufman was close friends with Marvel's legendary Stan Lee, the father of Spider-Man himself. So it only made sense that in the 90s, Marvel Comics brought Tromaville into the four-color world, publishing 11 issues of The Toxic Avenger and 8 issues of Toxic Crusaders. Both titles were canceled around the same times as The Toxic Crusaders, as the animated series was not picked up for a second season. Fast forward to the 2000s, Troma launched its very own line of comics based on cult favorites like The Chosen One, Legend of the Raven, Sucker the Vampire, Terror, Ferber, Tromeo and Juliet, and of course, more adventures starring Toxie. Even Spain joined in the fun, with Fester Comics releasing titles like Sergeant Kabuki Man and Mother's Day. In 2007, fans were treated to The Toxic Avenger and Other Traumatic Tales, a collected anthology featuring Toxie, Poultrygeist, and more Troma madness. Over the years, Lloyd Kaufman and Toxie themselves have popped up in cameos across the comic book world, while indie publishers license properties like Frostbiter and Chillers. Most recently, even the new legendary Toxic Avenger film has inspired a brand new graphic novel. But here's the thing. It's been a while since fans had a regular, ongoing Toxie book to dive into. That's where Ahoy Comics steps in. They've launched a brand new Toxic Avenger series, with the first 5 issues already collected into a trade paperback, which is available now at bookstores. And if that wasn't enough, they're rolling right into the next story arc. Plus, the return of the Toxic Crusaders with a brand new run that starts this week. If your local comic book store isn't carrying the Toxic Crusaders, order it and force them. Make mine Troma. Which brings us to today's special guest, Matt Bors. Matt is a Pulitzer Prize finalist, the founder of the comics website, The Nib, and an award-winning cartoonist known for his sharp wit and social commentary. Now he's turned his talents towards Tromaville, writing The Toxic Avenger and Toxic Crusaders for Ahoy Comics. So from the hallowed halls of San Diego Comic-Con, we're bringing you our exclusive interview with Matt Bors. So sit back, enjoy the conversation, and as always, stay traumatized.
Chris Lanfear for Talkin' Troma here at San Diego Comic-Con 2025 with the writer, producer, creator of the new Toxic Avenger and Toxic Crusaders comics from Ahoy Comics, Mr. Matt Bors. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. We just had a fun weekend at Comic-Con, multiple panels, a signing and everything, and this is the last thing I'm doing, sitting in the shade with you, having a nice interview. It's been a great experience.
It's been a hell of a week. I know, obviously, like this has been kind of adjacent to the Toxic Avenger reimagining with Peter Dinklage coming out, and we had premieres for that here at Comic-Con. Like, did this experience this week at Comic-Con match the experience you thought you would have, or was it bigger, was it lesser? Kind of, what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's like 2 years ago, like Toxie as the comic that I'm doing is a Comic-Con story. So I approached Lloyd Kaufman 2 years ago at Comic-Con, and I introduced myself, and I said, I have this idea for a Toxic Avenger comic. I've loved Toxic Avenger, Toxic Crusaders. I want to bring them all back. And I didn't know at the time that there was a movie in the works. So I feel like I lucked out in being able to do this. And then now here we are 2 years later. We have a #1 issues out. They're premiering all the Toxie stuff. It's crazy. So, I mean, to answer your question, it's like, it's a dream to get to do this and to imagine myself, a couple years after just walking up to him cold, really, to Lloyd and asking him, you think, is there any shot that we can make this work? To now we're signing comics, and there's the movie coming out and everything. I mean, it's fabulous. I love it.
Yeah, what sort of feedback have you gotten from people who coming up for the signings and the response to the panels? Like, what's your take on the sort of feedback you've received on the book so far?
Well, people are loving the comic, which is great, because I was, when you do something like this, you're always a little worried about it. I'm trying to do something new with it while remaining true to like the roots of it, and similar to what the movie seems like it's doing. I haven't seen the movie yet, but it seems like it's a new Toxie. And so is my comic, but it's true to the basic premises of the franchise. So, you're always worried about, I guess, how fans might receive that. But everybody seems to be digging it, and it just seems in general that Toxic Avenger was really like dormant for a while. A lot of people watched it. It was a cult hit, obviously, but there wasn't anything new coming out for a long time. And now it's Toxie summer, man. I mean.
It really is the summer of Toxie. I have been, with Troma for 2 decades plus now, and I've never seen a response like this to anything we've done or been involved with. So it's just been an absolutely crazy summer, and it's just getting started. I mean, the movie comes out in a month and a half, and there's already all this buzz around it, and there's buzz around the books. Like, to just switch gears just a little bit, were you influenced at all by the original Marvel comic series that came out in 1991 and 92?
Honestly, no. I hadn't read those until I got the green light to write the comic, and I went back and read what those were. But I am influenced by the Toxic Crusaders cartoon, because I kind of watched that and the movies around the same time. I was a little kid, I was born in 1983, and the cartoon came out in 91. So I definitely saw the cartoon in real time, and I feel like I don't actually remember watching the Toxic Avenger for the first time. It's like the constant question I'm asked in like interviews about the comic. It's like, when did you see it? And I'm like, I think I was so young, I don't remember actually seeing it for the first time. But so the point is that what I view what I'm doing is this sort of like amalgamation of mashing together movie stuff and the Toxic Crusaders stuff, doing the Smogulin plot line and having the mutants like Major Disaster and Junkyard in there, but making it all sort of rated R and gross and cool, and also like kind of dealing with socio-political stuff, pollution majorly. But no, I didn't read the comics, although I will say that Sam Keith did covers for Toxic Crusaders. He's like a great artist who did the backs and other stuff, so it's cool to see his artwork on there.
Yeah, he did Toxie #1 and or Toxic Crusaders #1 with the whole crew and like Toxie in the front, and that's iconic artwork. But the artwork that you have in your books as well, from artists like Fred Harper, and you have like some kind of other guest artists coming in, they all have slightly different takes on the material, but it all sort of seems to fit together. Can you talk a little bit about the selection process that you've kind of gone through with finding different artists to work on these?
Yeah, so the main artist we got is Fred Harper. You mentioned he's really great. He's got this kind of like, it's like Simon Bisley, Richard Corbin influences. He's really good at anatomy and expressions, which makes him really good for like contorting those anatomy and expressions and everything. So he does a big he's kind of drawn Toxie really muscular, and it gives him a little bit of a crooked face. I like his style a lot. And he did the first 5 issues, and he also did the new issue #1 that's like a horror focused issue that's like really goes in on horror. It's not as humorous as the other ones, and I think that's his best one. Like, he just does horror really good, a lot of dark inks, good lighting, creepy shit. And then you mentioned we got a bunch of other guest artists, like Felipe Sobrero, Erica Henderson, who did The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, very popular artist. We're lucky to have her, and Grim Wilkins, who is like an indie artist with Image. And what I found in asking people to do stuff, there's either artists who, some people have no interest in Toxic Avenger whatsoever. Just like if you ask them, hey, do you want to do a My Little Pony comic? And they're like, oh. But then you meet people and they're just like, oh yeah. I mean, a lot of artists are more into Toxie than My Little Pony, but if there some people who you maybe normally wouldn't be able to get on a licensed comic want to do it because they really like Toxic Avenger, and they're like, oh, this is cool as hell. So
Yeah, and it kind of fits with like the outsider vibe that Troma and Toxie have always been sort of known for. Like, he's a superhero, but he's a little bit too gross. He's a little bit too extreme for some of the more mainstream stuff that like Marvel and DC have been doing. And, you know, that's also part of its charm, which I love. And the stories that you're telling in these books, it feels like, especially with Toxic Crusaders now coming out as a book, that you could easily just kind of play it safe and just sort of like take stuff from the cartoon and expand on it a little bit. But what I love from what I've seen so far is that the stories go further. We were talking before we started about the character of Blobby, and we're not going to spoil it on this show, but you're talking about an arc for that character that has never happened before. He's never had an arc, you know. In the cartoon, he's just a mop that comes to life. But the fact that you're taking these things in so many different directions, that I feel like the cartoon would have eventually gotten there had it, you know, been as successful as we had wanted it to be back in the day. But it's just really, really cool to see the expansion of the world. So I guess the question I'm getting to is, like, what's your thought process in terms of coming up with you know, stories and situations to put these characters in? Do you feel like you need to stay closer to the comics, or do you feel like an overwhelming desire to kind of like see where that can stretch?
Well, you know, with a lot of licensed comics, they are playing it straight, and that's what people want sometimes. So first of all, we're in this wave of nostalgia right now. I mean, they got comics coming out, The Cowboys of Moon Mesa, if you ever heard of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels like you know, maybe we got the California Raisins coming back or something. I don't know. We couldn't do, everything's coming back. But when you see some of these comics or movies or reboots, they're extremely on model. They look like the style of like the 90s cartoon or the 80s cartoon or whatever. And maybe some people would want that with Toxic Crusaders, but we wanted to push it. We wanted to get it like indie art vibes to it, make it, like I said earlier, like more, we wanted to make it R-rated, super violent, like the movies. We have this artist on it. It's his debut. It's not his debut book because he's done his own indie comics, Tristan Wright, but it's his debut mainstream book and monthly book. And this dude is off the charts good, man. People are going to love this book when they see it. So I wanted to push, you know, little like new versions of the characters. So for instance, we have a new origin, which is like this toxic train derailment full of toxic waste crashes in Tromaville, and that's what mutates everybody. So No Zone in the Crusaders is a pilot, and in our Crusaders, he was actually one of the workers on the train. The other worker is mutated too, and he goes to work for the guy we call Mr. K, who is Dr. Killimoff. And I guess I would say the main thing I'm trying to do in pushing things in a new direction is taking this original like idea of the Smogulans and pushing it through to the end, like the end point, you know. And if I get to do all the comics I want to do, you'll see what that is. But you know, initially, if you know, it spoils the first volume, the first 5 issues we did because that's sort of the reveal at the end, is that there's this big Smogulan plot,
which is out now in trade paperback form, available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all your favorite booksellers. Yeah,
but as we get going, you know, there's Mr. K, and there's also Mrs. C and Mr. P, and they all have these like initial names, and they all work in different sort of realms of the world, right? So Mr. K is actively trying to pollute everything, and there's somebody inside government, there's somebody inside Wall Street, there's somebody trying to manipulate influencers to prepare the human race for the eventual Smogulan invasion, which you know, we'll see on the page eventually.
Yeah, you're sort of the Smogulans were always very interesting because I feel like the original TV series really only scratched the surface of what the Smogulans were up to, and that really only got teased towards the last few episodes of the show. But now in the book, you have, you know, the opportunity to sort of expand that and figure out, like, who are the Smogulans? Where do they come from? What is it that they want? Like, what is their overarching plan? And it kind of seems like, you know, the Crusaders are coming to their own sort of Infinity War moment with the Smogulan invasion.
No, exactly. in Crusaders, what you'll see, that's a little different from the cartoon is just, it's Saturday morning cartoon. It was nobody sort of died. There's sort of a episodic status quo. Each episode is sort of like a new Smogulan plot. So we're going to take that and kind of push it further. And the Crusaders are sort of do some, I would say, fairly radical stuff to try to thwart this threat, right? I mean, what would you do if aliens were literally trying to take over the planet, right? I mean, you would probably, kill them. So they try to, that's the basic premise. They set out to kill them, but, things get complicated. And also, really, the thing I'm exploring in both books is that the reaction in the world to this fact is complicated. It's not believed by everybody, first of all. It is believed by some people, and they don't care, or they love it and they worship the bugs. So I'm trying to explore that, like the craziness of society, which is like reflective of some things going on right now, which is that everything isn't just straightforward. Oh, there's bad guys, and Toxie's a hero. He tries to do the right thing, but then maybe people are like, no, man, I fucking want to be a bug slave. So that's the type of, we're trying to get into.
Not everybody wants the hero, right? People kind of choose a side. And there are a lot of things going on right now that kind of fit in that category.
I like exploring the weird fallout from this stuff, so there's the toxic train spill is what we dealt with in the first 5 issues. And then really the first 5 issues of the new series are 5 separate issues that tell different stories in different genres, and it sort of deals with the fallout of like what would happen if this town was abandoned and there's a big pool of toxic waste. So we have like a serial killer in the first issue, essentially, who's like captures people and uses the toxic waste to mutate them. And then in the second issue, which is the origin story of a new mutant who will be on the Toxic Crusaders, named Fungirl, who is a fungus-based mutant girl. And she is the only member of the Crusaders who's willfully mutated herself. So that's another thing I thought. Well, what if you saw these people with these seemingly cool mutant powers? I mean, hey, so she jumps in a barrel of toxic waste with her mushroom collection. She's kind of a weirdo, and becomes Fungirl. And she's got, she can do anything, right? She got she's got a bunch of different kind of mushrooms colonized in her body. So she has power. She can produce edible mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, poison mushrooms, and of course hallucinogenic mushrooms. So like, I'm just coming up with like what would happen if this happened, right? You'd have weird crime cults, bug worshippers, serial killing maniacs, people who want to be mutants, people who want to kill all the mutants.
This show, as well as all of the programming on Loudspeaker, is listener supported. What that means to you is that rather than go to corporate sponsors and advertisers who are trying to sell you crap you don't need, we go straight to you. We go to the audience, and our audience helps us do what we do. The way you do that is by making a tax-deductible contribution to Loudspeaker. Go to loudspeaker.org and click on the support button. You can give one time or every month. It's entirely up to you, and we thank you so much for your support. Every single dollar helps us keep the lights on and tell more interesting stories like the one you're hearing right now. Thanks again for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
It's so much fun too. Like like you were mentioning earlier with, a lot of like licensed entertainment properties, you're given kind of a relatively small sandbox to play in. But the nice thing about, something like Toxie in his world is it's basically whatever you can come up with, we're kind of game for. Can you talk about, going back a little bit, when you first, came up to Lloyd and suggested the book, what has it been like, working with him and developing this story?
I mean, it's been great. Honestly, everybody at Troma's been great. They are super supportive. Like, so I went up to Lloyd and introduced myself. I said I had this idea. I didn't pitch him the entire idea then and there, but it was more like, that sounds cool. Like, why don't you email me and all this? And you meet things like that at Comic-Con are happening all the time, and sometimes follow-ups, nothing ever happens. But I put a big pitch together, kind of showing the steps of what I wanted to do, including, back then it had stuff that we're doing now. Like, I had years planned out. I did admittedly have an ambitious approach to this. I was like, I don't just want to do 5 issues. I want to do a whole run. We blow it out into 2 books. After the origin, it goes to Crusaders and Toxic Avenger simultaneously. We have all these new characters, these new villains. I mean, they loved it. I think, it's. I think. Hey man, I don't know exactly what they're doing with the new in the new movie, but I would love if they followed it up with Toxic Crusaders, and they can pick some ideas from my books, that if it works or whatever. But yeah, no, I would love to see all of the characters on the big screen.
Yeah, you and me both. I mean, for those of us, for those who've been around long enough, originally part of the original plan and rollout for Toxic Crusaders was a live action film that New Line Cinema picked up and was going to produce, and they committed a such and such million budget, and it's going to be out by the spring of '93. Well, when the show collapsed and was canceled, then the comic books went away, and New Line basically said, "Oh, sorry, our fingers were crossed, and we're not going to make this movie." Troma actually took New Line Cinema to court, and this was before New Line was purchased by Time Warner, and I never was able to get the figure out of Lloyd, but we made New Line Cinema say uncle. So the fact that
Lloyd.
Yeah, right. Well, the fact that we're sitting here 20 some odd years later, and there's been this resurgence of Toxic Avenger and Toxic Crusaders, plus the Toxic Crusaders video game is coming out in a few months. I mean, this really is the year of Toxie and his friends.
No, it's crazy. Something must have been in the air. I mean, think of what it is, frankly, is there's people my age, I'm 41, who grew up and loved this stuff. And then you get into a position as a creative where you can do something. And I think similar to how I had the idea of doing the comic, I don't know how Macon Blair and the games came about, but I imagine that they loved this stuff and they were sitting around thinking, oh, I got a good idea for how to do the Toxic Avenger and stuff. And so that's what happened, and I'm glad, because it is like we've been getting some crappy stuff served to us, like a lot of these reboots and everything. And I think it's nice to do one where I feel like I'm not just doing nostalgia bait. I'm not trying to recreate the movie. I can't do that, and I'm not trying to just recreate the cartoon in the style of the cartoon. I'm trying to do the next, a next version of it.
Yeah.
And so.
And I think franchises have to, they have to reinvent themselves to keep themselves going. You know what I mean? Like, people have come up to me, not necessarily at Comic-Con, but prior to this, saying like, "Oh, I heard that they changed stuff in the movie, or I heard that they changed stuff in the comic, and it's not the same." Well, of course it's not the same.
Yeah.
That story's already been told. You've already got that movie. That movie's not going anywhere. If you want that story, pop it into your DVD and watch it. But like, I feel like people are hungry for new interpretations of stories, because that's how you keep story going. That's how the world continues to expand.
Yeah, and you can't, for a lot of people, especially people who were young at the time, like Toxic Avenger, you can't recreate that feeling of like something when you were 12 that you fell in love with. I mean, we're here at San Diego. A lot of this is about people trying to recreate the feeling of something that they fell in love with when they were 12 and keeping that thing alive. But yeah, you do have to you have to make it new, or you're just getting served slop. And I think that like Toxic Avenger is cool because a lot of superhero stuff is super earnest. It's super polished. And Toxic Avenger is just, it's a couple different things, right? It's like a satire, it's a horror movie. It's also a superhero parody. And like, it was a superhero parody early on, before there was superhero movies. And I feel like one of the things I'm interested in with the new movie is like, is it sort of a superhero parody in a world where we've had 15 years of like gigantic superhero movies, and it can riff off of that? Because that's similar. Like, I'm trying to do that in the comic too. It's like, yeah, Toxie's not like Superman to name kind of the ultimate good boy superhero who does the right thing, and I think that's cool to like that. But it's like Toxie, and definitely in my version too, he's like, yeah, he does the right thing, but there's always ramifications. He's kind of naive. He will kill people, sometimes accidentally. It's sort of how I imagine it would play out if you were mutated by toxic waste and gained superpowers.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that's what people respond to about Toxie is like, just because he has these abilities doesn't mean he's not also a fuck up. Yeah. Like, does not mean that he can also make mistakes just like anyone else, and kind of have to deal with the consequences of those. With some of the other comics that you see, you know that they're going to save the day by the end of it, and no one's going to get hurt, and no one's, it's always wrapped up nicely in a bow. And Toxie's always kind of gone against that grain a little bit. Yeah. So that there's something novel about that in a world where there is, especially now, so much superhero content out there, for lack of a better term, that you know what you're getting going in. And that's the thing I think is cool about this character in this world, is you never quite know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I want to throw a few curveballs to the readers with the series, about where things are going or where the threats are coming from. I'm spoiling a lot, and I'm saying stuff about the Smogulants, but I do have a lot of plans for where this goes. That isn't just a linear thing of they fight the bad guys and then they win and it's all good. It's going to get super complicated.
That's going to be so much fun to see. Random thought. Who, outside of Toxie, because obviously everybody loves Toxie, but out of the Crusaders in the expanded world, who's your favorite character to write for?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I would say I like them all, and I'm not even finished writing the series. So how it works is I'm focusing on a Crusader for each issue. So we'll go back, we'll see their sort of origin story, or we'll see a little clip of them before they were mutated, so we haven't seen that for most of these characters. I like right now Major Disaster, but that might be because I've written the most of him so far, because he was like more of a supporting character in the first arc. But as I flesh out each of them, I'm really liking it, and I also think this new character Fungirl has like breakout potential, and I don't want to jinx myself, but I mean my not so secret ambition is like, oh, this girl's gonna have her own like mini series,
So Fun Girl spinoff confirmed. Cool. Exclusive news here at SDCC.
It's a movie coming out in 2028, actually. No,
Right.
But okay, I'll tell you. This is sort of adjacent, which is in Major Disaster and Fun Girl play into this, which is figuring out how to use their powers in cool ways. Like what can you actually, like with Nozun, what am I going to do with Snot? It's gross and it's cool, but like, what's the fight logic of it? What's the, blowing a honker on the ground and making your enemy slip, for instance, or whatever. And with Major Disaster and Fun Girl, they sort of have more capabilities than the other Crusaders. So they, all sorts of things, defensive and offensive capabilities. They can clean up toxic waste. I have them do this in one issue because there's certain plants and fungus that are help leach toxins out of the soil, so they can actually deploy their powers to help clean up toxic waste. So I'm trying to think of fun stuff like that. I got Major Disaster can grow these wood javelins that he throws at Bonehead in the first issue. It's fun.
I grew up with these characters and grew up with this world, but it's so much fun to see new people playing in the sandbox and writing new stories. And I just want to take a second to thank you for sitting down with me. This has been a lot of fun. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of we've done a lot of teases for the stories to come, but is there anything else you want to say as we start to wrap up here?
Just hope people give it a chance and buy it. Making comics only go as long as people support them. So if you want to see the full run, definitely go buy it from Ahoy, from your local comic shop. But other than that, I just am so glad that I got to be able to do this and be here at Comic-Con with Trauma Team and Lloyd, because like I said, it's weird, man. It's a Comic-Con story now for me. It's corny, but it's oh no, that's where I made it happen, and I went up to him. So I feel I'm going to come back here next year. We're still going to be doing Toxie. The comics, the movie will have been out, and hopefully the movie does well. I mean, I hope it is good, but all good movies don't do well. I hope it does well too, for all of our sakes and just for Toxie and the culture, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, the rising tide lifts all boats. So if the movie does well, I think more people will seek out the comics, more people will seek out the originals, more people will seek out the action figures and some of the stuff that's coming. Hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed, sky's the limit. So Matt Boris, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. You can pick up your copies of Toxic Avenger and Toxic Crusaders at your local comic book shop or Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. ComicsAhoy.com has the breakdowns of each of the series, and also Toxie's pinup special. We didn't even talk about those.
Yeah.
The Toxie team ups are out there.
There's a lot coming out. Yeah, there's the pinup special and the Toxies. They'll all be collected though in trades, so people will be able to get them.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for listening. Thanks to Matt Bors and Ahoy Comics for sitting down with us. And till next time, stay traumatized. Thanks very much.
Talkin' Trauma with Zach Bynes is hosted and produced by Zach Bynes, Chris Lanfear, and Chaz Kangas. Our head of research is Dr. Nolan Stoltz. The show is recorded at Loudspeaker Studios in Fort Collins, Colorado. Executive producers for Loudspeaker are Chris Lanfear and Charles Joseph Kelly. Our theme music is by J57 and Bald Halfwit. Talkin' Trauma is a listener-supported production of Loudspeaker Studios, a nonprofit public radio service. To support the show, please consider making a donation at loudspeaker.org. Catch new episodes of the show Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, streaming at loudspeaker.org and the Loudspeaker mobile app. Past episodes of the show can be found at talkintrauma.com, and you can find us on social media at Talkin' Trauma. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in Traumaville.
This has been a listener-supported production of Loudspeaker Studios. For more on this and other programs, visit loudspeaker.org.